Trying to do it, so.
I have to put a regular link on my homepage, so I don't have to.
Yeah, it's a snap. Okay. How about you? See. Thank you. Go for it. There's a thing going on. It's 9 o'clock.
Okay. You up and running?
I am.
All righty, thank you. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, November 16th, 2022. The time is now 9 a.m. I'm Kevin Day, Chair of the Custer County BOCC. I will call this meeting of the Board of County Commissioners to order. If you do have cell phones, please silence them at this time. And if you would join me for the pledge. Chris, would you lead us, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Kelly, could we get a roll call?
Commissioner Day,
Present.
Commissioner Kanda,
Here.
Commissioner Flower,
Present.
Attorney Clint Smith,
Present.
and Clerk to the Board Kelly Camper.
And Audrey's introduction, we'll start with you.
Jennifer Cree, Admin Assistant.
David Day, Wetmore.
Dorothy Karsten, Planning and Zoning.
Bruce Bryson, individual.
All righty then. And I'm not seeing anybody online, so if anybody goes to speak later, if you can identify yourself for the record. I will greatly appreciate it.
Ouch.
Sounded bad.
Cindy Howard, I'm here for Fire Adaptive Colorado.
Thank you, Cindy. I'm sorry I punched you up, but I didn't see you there, so. My bad eye, I guess. All right, any amendments to the agenda?
None from me.
No, sir. None here either. No minutes today?
No.
Commissioner items. Commissioner Kanda.
Lots happened since we last met. Most significant for me was the election. I'm here for 4 more years, much to everybody's chagrin, so you better watch out.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks to everybody in the county for that. Couple things. We did have a budget workshop that I thought went really great. Was that, yeah, and we're in for I guess another round of that on Monday, Tuesday, maybe.
Mhm.
Braden's working hard, and I was really impressed with what he's done. The most significant thing that I thought was good, Adrian Washington is working on a wildfire mitigation plan, as you all know. And he came up with an idea for an endorsement from the Upper Ark Water Conservancy District, because I was heading to the meeting, to ask them to sponsor that, allow an endorsement, not a sponsorship, to use the Lake Deweese construction augmentation to raise the level of the water 4 feet. And to mention that as a good thing for fire mitigation use in the future, you know, where you can use it to put out a fire nearby while trucks sucking up the water or helicopters. And I took it over there and they endorsed it wholeheartedly because what that can happen, it'll allow us to have a stronger chance to get the grants, and as well as the Upper Ark PR to help them in grants for the construction of that dam later on. So that was a good thing, I thought. Mayor's Roundtable, I attended with Buck Wenzel and the mayors of the towns of Fremont County, Canyon City, Williamsburg, and a couple other small towns. I thought that was a good thing, and I'm glad they changed the time because in the past it's been on the meeting dates that we've had conflict with, so we couldn't attend very much. It's a good thing Debbie Bell is there for Fremont County, and I thought it was a very interesting thing to see what things we can work in common and what things that we're doing. It was very useful. So I'll be bringing some of those items to us once in a while. And that's all I got for now.
Thank you. Commissioner Flower.
Thank you, sir. My calendar since our last BOCC meeting, November the 8th, 7th, I also attended the budget workshop here. November the 8th, I had a Zoom call with the Colorado Department of Transportation on the multimodal opportunity fund grant. And I have submitted the second round of documents to that for that grant to CDOT. Met with Mr. Pettit via Zoom, went through the entire document, and I think we're on the right track. So we'll see. I'm waiting for confirmation from their budget office that they've gone through those docs for a design and engineering grant for this sidewalk highway project. Grants for $250,000. It's a non-match grant. So probably we'll know moving forward before the end of the year. The budget office has gone through all that, and then next step will be to write an RFP for that, for the engineering work. So we'll get that started. On November the 9th, along with our chairman of the BOCC, I attended the attainable housing meeting up at the town hall in Silver Cliff. I think that was the same day that you had a meeting. And we went over and toured the properties that we own. A couple of ladies here that are representatives of the technical assistance grant that the economic developer, the attainable housing board submitted and were awarded. So they came up from New Mexico and spent the afternoon. So we'll see. They're also going to work on drafting an RFP for contractors, investors, whatever that's going to look like, to see about getting some forward motion on the whole attainable housing thing. I think the general idea is now to work towards either single family dwellings or duplex townhome style of buildings there.
That was a windy day, cold. Did they have their tour?
Yeah, we went out.
That was windier than heck.
They didn't stay out of the vehicles.
They just drive around. Oh, there it is. Look at our wood tumbleweeds. They're going by that one.
They did for that.
The speed of light.
So, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that all progresses. And then on the 12th, a friend of mine and I and Jared McLean went down to Pueblo. It was last Saturday, and picked up boxes of food for the Veterans Service Center that he's going to distribute right before Thanksgiving. We talked about it in our last meeting. It was supposed to be 120 boxes, so we thought we were going to take 2 vehicles. And Jared followed up with him. They said, no, it's probably gonna be 70 boxes. So we took one pickup and trailer. And got down there, got in line at CSU Pueblo's parking lot, and the gal said, well, I think you have 40 boxes, which we could have easily hauled in the back of a pickup. So
Geez, man.
we got around there and there was a guy directing traffic and he said, your pile's a third one from the end. So we pulled down there and there had to be 120, 130 boxes of food and 25 bags of food. So we had a load for sure. So we got back and unloaded that all in the BSO building. And he's gonna sort kind of through that and come up with a plan to distribute that food. So I think he talked with Jennifer as a PIO about getting something press release out. Is that correct? So that was good. Ran into Mr. Bogle while we were down there and I said, what in the world? And he said, well, you may not know this, Flower, but it's the organization I'm involved in started this food drive 7 years ago. And they had, I don't know, 17 of them across the nation and 2 or 3 in Colorado. And he suggested maybe they ought to do one in Pueblo. So this was their second or third year down there for that. He was involved. Good to see him. And then this week, let's see, was that yesterday? Lost track, yeah. We had an opioid region 15 Zoom meeting that now we're working on the budget process, that whole thing. State of Colorado, or our region, sorry, the state of Colorado received theirs, but our region received our first round of funding. 4 counties in our region, it was $531,000. So we split that up into 3 categories. So each of those categories will split some of that money. That we won't expend all 500,000 this first year, but I think they're looking at about 85,000. So we went through that yesterday and we'll meet again in February, our next meeting for that. So. And then also yesterday, I had a meeting with Joni Liebman. And so we are beginning the process of writing another RREO grant to CDPHE for the Recycle Center. I don't know how we want to go about that if the way we had started, we went through the documents yesterday and looked at all that. And I believe that the county should write that grant instead of Sustainable Ways. It's just going to be a lot cleaner if we do it. And so I probably should put that on the agenda and see if we can get approval for that. It will be a $0 match grant, but they do accept in-kind match. And right now we have budgeted $21,000 for in-kind. So it's going to be about a $70,000 or $80,000 grant. So I don't know what needs some direction, Mr. Chairman. How would you like to approach that? Because we have said we need to vote on all these grants. So
He's be on the agenda.
we certainly haven't submitted it. It's got to be submitted by January 5.
We could put it on the month-end agenda
Okay.
if you would like.
What's the
If that
name of the
works for
grant?
you.
Rio.
Yeah. RREO grant from CDPHE for recycle. And the idea with that whole grant, and I can talk about it more later too, but asking them for funds to build a storage container sided building to store the cardboard and the cardboard under that to keep it out of the weather.
The bills.
Yeah, cardboard bales. The paper will go in one of the storage containers and the aluminum and the steel can be housed in another. Along with any other miscellaneous stuff, but those storage containers are 40 foot long and 8 foot wide. We'll set them on a concrete pad, 30 6 feet apart because, we measured those bales, 30 feet apart. 7 rows of those bales take up 28 feet. And then we can stack those 3 high, so I calculated it'd be over 180 bales we could store under that. We had to. The last 2 months, the cardboard market has shut down. It's open again now, but we had about 45 or 50 bales sitting out there in the weather, waiting for the markets to even open, let alone get better. So we did.
Can't let them soak up the water and be a little more money.
Yeah, and they know what a bale of cardboard's supposed to weigh, and when they come in heavy, they dock it. Unfortunately, I thought the same thing. They go, yeah, just the opposite. Those bales are outside a certain weight parameter, then we get docked for it. So I think this grant also requires an additional FTE. So we've submitted for a half-time position out there to manage the cardboard itself, and then all these trailers back and forth. We're using volunteers now, but that probably will not be a self-sustaining long-term position, but so that's where we're at, and I can talk about it more. So that's going to be on the 30th. Sure, it's not on the 29th.
Okay, probably the 29th.
No, I think it is the 30th.
I'll do the 29th and
month
we'll
is
take
the
Wednesday,
30th.
Thursday off.
29th.
How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just, I'll point out your flaws.
I don't know, I'm just asking. Inside joke. Yeah, so I'll bring that formally before the board.
Okay.
And I had told Joni that I would take the lead on that if she would help me, because she's got the experience of writing the last one. She agreed with that. That's my calendar. I do have some other things that I would like to touch base on. I'm assuming you gentlemen have the opportunity to read the emails concerning the draining of these illegal ponds and the opportunity by statute for county commissioners in each county to consider waiving some of those ponds for fire suppression. I spoke with the water commissioner, Mr. Livengood, about that, and he called me and said, "Hey, are you aware of this?" I said, "Absolutely." And so he thinks there's 1 or 2 ponds that he would like to come to the Board of County Commissioners meeting and make a recommendation to us about that. We have the authority to waive that on certain ponds, and so I told him I would bring it up at a meeting, and if we need to schedule it on an agenda, we can, and I can get with him and find out if and when he's available. So if you're not opposed to that, I will follow up with him.
Not a bad idea.
Try to get him in.
Then you brought it up, that did come up in the Upper Ark meeting. And they wanted to make sure everybody understood Upper Ark's not enforcing anything, the state is. Secondly, is the commissioners do have that, and you gotta understand, if a pond existed before 72, I think it was, then those are okay if they're grandfathered in. But if it's gonna be for fire suppression or things that we can waive it for, we have to be careful to make sure that what they were. So that's a good idea to get it understood, so everybody up here doesn't think, how come he gets to keep on, he didn't,
Right.
how come the commissioner did this,
Right. Yeah, there's really no politics to it.
That's a fact.
Division of Water Resources will, through their individual district managers, will make recommendations and state a case for the ponds that they truly believe would be advantageous for fire suppression. So
Yeah, and there's certain, water commissioner from, I forget what district he was in, was at that meeting, he pointed out there's certain sizes and
Right.
call per acre.
I think they have to be less than 4 acre.
Yeah,
Or,
or 60 was talking about something like that. Yeah, but anyway, we need to understand.
yeah,
Good idea.
so Livelihood would bring all that to us and I would probably recommend that if we wanna insulate ourselves from the political stuff, we could have him recommend those by a number or whatever. I mean, I don't have to know who owns that pond to vote whether or not it would be good for fire suppression. Doesn't matter really, but I've had 3 or 4 people call me in the last year saying, hey, guys want to drain my pond, is that right? What can we do about it? Can't do anything about it, it's illegal, so. But it's
Some people are having a problem in the bottom of the valley because you can't drain them.
Right.
An artesian well pushing it up.
yeah, so I'll talk to Jerry and get him to
Okay,
deal for that. And then we did receive an invoice from the contractor doing the work on the search and rescue building. It was $7,100. That's been submitted and will be paid. The chairman of their board came in and indicated that she verified the work had been done. That it was 7,500, wasn't it? And but she verified that that portion of the work out there had been done, so sent that invoice to Braden. And then as part of the price of being a county commissioner, we got to talk about Christmas dinner. So one Miss Dorothy Karsten approached yesterday about the possibility of having a Christmas dinner. We've missed the last 2 years because of COVID. And her office would like to be the lead on putting together a nice Christmas dinner for the employees of the county building and public health, OEM, VSO. So I said I would bring that up today. And it would be
Something
a
against
cost
the road and bridge
associated
boys.
with that, but
they put their own party
I
on.
know they
road
do.
and bridge sheriff, yeah, they have their own. So basically designed for those that don't currently have their own quote,
Yeah.
Christmas party, so. If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to that, and then we can have discussion about it and move forward with that.
I'd second that motion. So we do have a motion on the floor.
Well, let
Oh, wait a minute.
me formally,
Oh, you did not do that.
no, I said I would like to, if that's okay, if it's appropriate, so. I
He
would-
seconded it, you can do it.
Yeah, if he's seconded, apparently I can do it.
Hey, it's okay.
Move that we fund a Christmas dinner party for the employees of the county building, VSO, OEM, and the public health department. And the landfill, better include them, although they'll probably go to road and bridge.
Public,
I was gonna say they're
county
in Road and
employees.
Bridge.
Oh, there was road and bridge, so they're not landfill. And budget $1,500 to cover the cost of that. On December the 16th, location most likely will be all aboard West Cliff. There's my motion.
Okay. Now I would second that motion.
Okay, so cost wise, there's more subsidy to that, or is there somebody passing a hat that?
No, the county would pay the $1,500 for that, up to $1,500.
And then be
Don't
for
know
food,
exactly.
rent on the building or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, is it gonna be like a smorgasbord thing and people are bringing dishes or
No.
just
Um,
catered?
I believe with the $1,500, if we can get that, we would be able to do a prime rib dinner with baked potatoes, the works, a salad,
Mhm.
green beans. And that would also pay for the rental of the building.
Good.
And then everybody we would offer or allow them, ask them to bring their drink of choice. So that alleviates us from having to bring anything like that. So it'll be a tight budget at 1,500, but I think if I get the meat ordered ahead of time, it's hard to find now this morning compared to what we were looking at yesterday,
Well,
so.
great.
um,
And I might add, if I may, that this dinner will be for county employees plus one guest. And we think we get that squeezed in there at 1,500. I don't know if the county attorney, we didn't really talk about how that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm always left out there with my nose pressed up against.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Licking your chops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not left out.
Heaven forbid now, we don't get invited, right? Oh my gosh. So, yeah, originally I kind of, about the money and then realized we haven't done anything in the last 2 years, so thought maybe this might be.
What time was that?
I haven't selected a time that I'm aware of. I don't know, probably 5.
On the 16th,
Yeah.
so I just put 6 to 9.
Oh, okay.
I have a little invitation for you guys.
I'm not seeing anything on my
We're having
calendar,
fun
but the
today, right? Okay.
15th really rings a bell for some reason.
Just trying to go for scratch paper.
It's big.
We haven't voted yet, have we?
No.
This works great.
Is
That's
it,
my wedding anniversary, so I can take my wife out to dinner.
Yeah.
is this being catered or is it, or being
Um,
special deal somewhere? How's it?
that Jennifer has offered and
Oh.
myself, we will be putting it together.
Oh, okay, so,
So I may have to vote this down, even though I made the motion. Just because I made the motion doesn't mean I have to vote for it, right? Because I'm struggling already.
Are you now?
Yeah.
There's something here. You wanna throw it?
I could use the scissors and cut the bottom line off of this.
Right.
yeah, what is the $500 fee
Yeah,
for?
there you
$500 out of somebody's budget. Fine, I'm fine with it.
So you're broadcasting this.
No, I hope this is only today, or we're gonna have issues. Oh, God. Yeah, I think it'll be nice. A nice sit down dinner. They may get up and go through a line and pick their plate up, but it's not gonna be.
We have a volunteer DJ, so we'll have some Christmas music. All coming together.
Cool. Okay, so I do have a motion on the floor. To sponsor and fund up to $1,500 for a Christmas party for the entity stated. I'm not gonna try to go through the list. I'll leave somebody out.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 When it comes time to expend the dollars, I suppose you gotta probably talk to Braden about that.
Thank you. I was gonna, well, I was wanting to know what kind of account, is it gonna come out of the commissioner's budget? And if so, good news is that this year you had some savings with salaries, so there's money in your budget to cover that, in my opinion. We may have to move some things around, but
Well, this is probably news to everybody, but I thought the clerk's office said they were gonna,
oh, that was what it was. That is news.
maybe I'm confused.
Pretty sure
by that.
she's
Look,
over budget.
yeah, scratch
I
that.
just think-
Yeah, I think we just do that community outreach and.
Okay.
And that's my.
Well, it's for.
Yeah, it's for.
And not to throw a damper on things, but the 16th is the road and bridge.
That's why,
That might
Oh,
be
that's why it rings a
That's
bell.
their special.
I texted Scott because I thought, I think the 16th.
Well, there's two of them.
Would that matter though? I mean.
Well, it was to me.
It would, and it would.
She's gotta make a choice where she goes to them.
It would to us as well, because we attend.
The children kidnapped Road and Bridge. I didn't know that's when they're there.
I knew it rang a bell and I hadn't got it wrote
Yeah.
down, so.
I didn't write it down.
I
What
didn't think
about
about that
17th?
yesterday when you were talking about it.
She'll
You
make
do it on Saturday.
I'll look and see. I'll call them.
See, what was the 16th? Was that on?
Right.
Friday.
Yes, Saturday. I think. Unless they
Even do
got,
it Thursday evening after work or
no,
whatever. That'd be nice to do it on a day weekend.
Yeah, well, I can set
Yeah.
up. You all.
Saturday's okay, unless them, I'm sure they don't have it booked.
I'll check.
Shouldn't
with
make
them.
a
She
difference.
said they did have quite a few openings. That was just prime day. It looked like. You want a party each 2 nights in a row?
We can improve it TBD.
It's holiday
You know.
season. They're used to it. That's the way it is.
I'll see what I can do.
I am getting older, but I could probably pull off 2 parties back to back.
If you were forced to, right?
Yeah, the prime rib.
If you got.
Thank you for getting that information.
Yeah, I thought it rang a bell too. He wasn't worried.
I got seconds after you're done. I got a couple things that came to mind during.
Okay. Do you have anything else, sir?
The only other thing that I would report today is that the annual meeting of the Underfunded Court Security Commission is December the 8th in Denver, so I will be attending that. I haven't received the packet yet to see what counties are. For those dollars. And I think we ought to get with the new court security officer and see if they have a need. What we're gonna do if we want to buy from another brand from them.
You can-
That's it, sir. Thanks.
All right, so we'll go back to you so you can get yours and then I'll finish up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that reminded me of a couple things. Caitlin Westlander, CDOT Aviation Group, just asked me a couple of days ago to see if we wanted to fund or get a grant for a fuel farm that we put in for some time ago, ramp expansion, that kind of thing. We were under the understanding that there was no money in 24 and 23 from them, but all of a sudden they came upon, you can go for 400,000 if you want. So that could be possible, but it would involve moving the new tank to the fuel farm and actually doing where we want to do it in the future anyway. So that's something we'll consider and take a look at. That it's a matching grant. We'd have to budget whatever the price is. If we wanted to buy a tank, we could do that, maybe store it. There's a lot of options to look at. It's not in the SIP right now, the capital investment plan for that year. It is out there in the out years. So we'll be looking at that later. Also, I thought something that was very nice that I attended was the American Legion dinner on Veterans Day dinner on Saturday. It was great. Was well attended. There's more than 80 people there. It was a full house at Tony's, and they had a great speech from a retired major general that just did a bang up job. And I thought it was great. Really was. Made you proud to be an American. And speaking of patting yourself on the back and getting hurt with Jennifer, rather than having her pat herself so many times, I wanted to congratulate her because you have been doing a great job. She's been helping me a lot with the grants, and we straightened up. As a matter of fact, the underfunded courts thing is cleaned up, and we got pretty good load of dough, I think, to move forward with on the grants that we didn't spend, and we have authorization to do that from.
We're waiting, it has to go to.
It's still, they got to go to a super board yet. but
Correct.
She doesn't see any issue with that.
Yeah.
That's good news. And so that allows us to continue coming up with ideas on how we're going to approach this modular look at how we're going to build the courts first, jails later, come and go. So I'm pretty excited about that. Good job, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Get the liniment, get the Bengay off your elbow now. All right, we'll see you. Thanks.
You bet. Okay, I think everybody is probably aware at this time that Stephanie has injured her wrist and is now scheduled for surgery on that. I believe Monday, is that correct?
That is correct.
And so she at the present time is out and will be out until she is released to come back to work. Lauren has changed her days of cleaning now, I believe, to Tuesday and Thursday to make sure that we're cleaned at the end of the week. And but at this time is unable to pick up all the extra hours. So I thought I would bring that up.
What is the sod?
To see if there's any. I guess it's been going that way for about a week. My question would be, have we had issues because of that? Can we continue on that way till she returns, or do we need to look at bringing someone in until she can return to work? So I guess I'm looking at you because your office and is aware of different things. Do you know of any issues perchance because of the lack of cleaning?
It would be nice to have somebody.
Okay, fair enough. So
It needs to be, did the airport ever get clean?
And that was what I was gonna address, is
That's on
that,
the email.
the airport and and health department, they both are on a cycle, and because of her breaking her wrist, they have been pushed to the back burner. And it's been almost a month since the airport has been done. And so both of those departments have requested if we can find somebody to fill in.
So,
So is there a Mary Maid still in business? Around here, I haven't heard of anybody.
There is,
Is there?
I actually know of a couple of people who have cleaning businesses. And then I also have a past employee that has cleaned my house in the past that I could reach out to and see if she wants a few extra hours or would like to make some extra money. But
Well, I personally think that we ought to get somebody, because we're getting further behind.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to ask people to do their own janitorial stuff. This time of year, we get some more weather, this stuff gets tracked in here. And
Yeah.
so I would be in favor of allowing Commissioner Day just to take care of that if he is so inclined, and
Get whoever we can get.
somebody either interim or hourly or whatever. I'll support whatever you want to do.
okay. So I will probably get with you and get some names, and maybe we can work on that this afternoon after. Oh, you're gonna be gone later.
yeah, it'll be fine. We can.
I'll get with you and we'll get something set up on that. County Road, well, Road 360, Ophir Creek. I don't want to say County Road, Road 360. I was involved with Road and Bridge, and they have requested and they have dropped winter maintenance on Ophir Creek. It's a 22, so 44-mile round trip to go plow 1.25 miles of road for a snowmobile parking lot. And the fuel price is at $5 a gallon and everything. That's just very prohibitive. According to the HUTF, the road and bridge hasn't found anything in there that states anything about winter maintenance. It's just the summer maintenance. It's a once a year maintenance on that road. The entire road on that. So that was an agreement that we had added on. Jeff Luthier and oh my gosh,
Destiny
Destiny
Chapman.
Chapman. I've been in contact with both of them and they are fully aware of it. Snowmobile Club even reached out to her as well. I will be writing them a letter on official letterhead. I did send them an email back responding that they would like something on official letterhead. So just to keep you guys abreast, winter maintenance is stopping on that road. I've been in contact with both of you. I think everybody was in agreement.
Yep.
I did also get an email with a invoice for the coroner training, new coroner training. And so I had forwarded that now to the finance office. And Lisa may cut that as an out of cycle check, so if that shows up on that, be aware of that. It had to be into them before December 7th. And she was a little unsure on the speed of the mail. This training's not offered again until the next election cycle, and you have to have that to start work. That's $3,500 for a week's worth of classes. Then it'll be plus hotel plus his food for the evenings on 3 or 4 nights.
Is that in Denver, that training?
It is.
I read that.
So anyhow, she will be in contact with Brad as well to go over the procedure for that, for the hotel and things of that nature. And
Yeah, I did talk to Braden, Vernon about that as well. And he said it was an oversight. He didn't realize that training was. He assumed there would be some training, but he had no idea it was a 1-week thing. So he never budgeted for that last year, looking ahead to now. So I said, understood. I mean, who would have ever thought, in October last year to budget for training, so.
yeah. And I think that's all I have, other than what you gentlemen have already brought up today. So, Ray Smith.
Since the last commissioners meeting, I excuse me, attended the planning commission meeting on November 7, where they considered an STR application, and that's on the agenda today for your consideration. I think Dorothy did a very good job of having everything put together for that in packets, individual packets for all the board members. That went smoothly. And that's all I've got to report.
Thank you, sir. That would bring us to you.
Okay, I have a couple of things. One, with the underfunded court grants, we have been approved for payment on one of the two in the amount of $14,180.35. We're waiting for that wire to come through. We do not have a time frame. The other one that I submitted in the amount of $18,394.13, she was anticipating an approval and then a payment notification that we would be paid this week. That leaves us with those two grants of $37,425.52. And we have adjusted the scope and requested extensions. And like Bill said, we do not think that there's going to be any issue with those extensions. So we are looking at another close to $40,000 that we can spend in the planning and master plan for underfunded courts.
And those payments are gonna be, back into Braden to put into rainy day fund or whatever. The
Well,
other ones.
we've already spent this.
I know we
money.
spent it already, but the point is we didn't have it. I don't know if he even considered it.
And
So that's good news.
yeah, the other thing is while I was sitting here, I received, Tom will be so excited. We did receive a receipts for the final retention payments for recycles and in the amount of $19,039.58. So
That was the retainage.
yep, that was the retainage. Yes, sir. And then the only other thing that I have that I want to just confirm with all three of you is I have a request for payment. This is actually from April of this year in the amount of $1,122 from Rocky Mountain Fire Extinguisher. They went through and serviced the fire extinguishers in the courthouse, in the annex building, sheriff's department, search and rescue, and airport. With it being in all of these different departments,
Nobody paid it?
Nobody's paid it. So I was putting it in for submittal this month. But I wanted to just double check that it should go in building and grounds rather than each individual department.
I think that's what we thought.
I think that's the cleanest way to do it.
That's what we did with the
Since
defibrillators.
they build it that way, I know. Like the road and bridge and the sheriff's office and stuff, they do it separately,
Well, sheriff's department's on here.
are they?
Yes.
Huh. Okay,
I think we were arguing about defibrillators and those, like, you know, whether they should be separate or not. And I thought we were putting them all together. So,
They did break it out, but I agree with Tom that I think it's gonna be cleaner to have it in building and maintenance and then adjust the next budget cycle to account for that.
would have been my next comment was to make sure we account for that if we do it that way moving forward, so.
So,
I can verify this was punched in April of 2022. So they did the work.
yes.
I'm surprised they waited till now to ask you.
No, well,
Have they been billing us every month and nobody's paid it?
well, they submitted it in April and then right when I first started, I got a notice. And I sent it, I believe, over the finance one. I don't know what to do with this. Because I was new, but now I understand how our procedures go. So that's why we have it today.
Good deal.
Yeah, that guy's getting close to retirement. I'm surprised he didn't come after his money sooner. But thank you for that.
No problem. And and then the other thing that I wanted to report was that I did do PIO training on the 10th. I did get 7 hours of education for PIO completed and a certificate. I have a list of classes on PIO. I'm going to take this afternoon and start going through some of those. So
Good.
I'll get another 5 hours knocked out today. That's it.
Thank you. You had a question?
I did. I was gonna ask Clint, are you planning on attending our meeting with the attorney on this lawsuit? Staff gonna be there.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Good, thank you, sir.
Right. Okay. Brings us to public comment. So if anybody has any comments on anything that is not on the agenda, feel free to do so at this time.
Kevin, I'd like to make a public comment on behalf of Fire Adapted Colorado.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and state your name.
Cindy Howard, I'm the Operations and Communications Specialist for Fire Adapted Colorado. I was listening to the report from Emergency Management at the November 2nd meeting and kind of a lengthy discussion on some CWP planning and grant planning for areas. One of them was kind of down by that Trinity Ranch area. And during your conversation, Fire Adapted Colorado came up at least 3 times during that conversation. And it was stated by the emergency manager that Fire Adapted Colorado works along HOAs and that we provide grant match funds for organizations. And neither of those are true. So I just wanted to clarify that. I don't want your expectations for Fire Adapted Colorado to be something they're not. In fact, I don't think the Forest Service, the State Forest Service, is going to be writing any grant applications or hiring any contractors. You know, the accountability for these landscape treatments and mitigation strategies in communities is really going to lie with you, and developing those programs within the county. You know, the fire department, I think, has maybe 1.5 FTEs at best. And there really isn't any other organizations in the county that can support that, at least not now. So I wanted to let you know, if you have questions about Fire Adapted Colorado, if you want to, talk to me offline about some of the things we do or can do to support you, a lot of our 167 members do represent counties. There's no cost to membership. And we do try to empower organizations and counties to implement science-based best practices. And then the last thing would be, you know, we were one of 16 community mitigation assessment team assistance team assignments since the inception of CMAT in Custer County. The federal team came in following the Hayden Pass, Beulah Hills, and Junkins fires in 2016. And, you know, there is a full report on that. I left the whole toolbox and all the working documents and suggestions for recommending those best practices. But that federal team came in and did that report in 2016 for us. And it is also available on the coalitions and collaboratives websites, along with a toolbox that they have put together for implementing other best practices like chipping programs, slash programs, defensible space, neighborhood ambassador programs, all the different things. But I found it interesting, you know, you're looking at a FTE for cardboard recycling, and yet there's no accountability at the local level to start implementing some of the FireWise community practices to meet the national cohesive strategies of fire adapted communities in Custer County. So if you have any questions, reach out. I think you all have my cell phone number. My email is cindy@fireadaptedco.org.
Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate it.
Got a question for you, Cindy. This is Bill.
Sure.
You talked to Adrian Washington about that? Does he know?
Have I? Yeah, he knows that. I don't know why he,
Okay, that's okay. That's the
Yeah.
only the question I have. And then the other piece is, it sounds like if there is a need for an FTE to do something, the grant process he ought to care about that. So I'm glad to hear that. I'll make sure he's aware of it.
Yeah, no, I have not talked to him since about the November 2nd meeting in general, but I've had several conversations with Adrian and Chris Bryson about Fire Adapted Colorado.
Okay.
And it dovetails nicely in with the emergency management performance grant. You know, you can put some of those goals in there. So,
Sure.
but
Good.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Cindy. All right. Any other public comment? Not seeing any hands raised. Okay, I have no unfinished business. New business, discussion of the forest initiative. That would be you, Chris.
Single Chris or whatever you
Just
call
me.
yourself. Just me,
Just
Chris.
me. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Good,
Good morning, how are you?
good, good. So I'm gonna try to make this as brief as possible first, because you guys gave me a 15.
And don't believe the 15
presentation.
minutes. That's not true.
We'll do what we can. So last year about this time, I think it was the 9th of November, I started a nonprofit locally called the Forest Restoration Initiative. And the reason I started it is because it seemed to me there was a need for the county to try to get behind supporting some veterans, get some free firewood, things like that. So that's how it started. The big picture is it's kind of evolved into a much bigger vision for me, for the county than that. Even though a lot of talks with Jared, being able to use the VSO as a distribution point if we were able to get it going, and a lot of other county things. But ultimately what I'm talking about is trying to create this nonprofit or build it out to where we can do smarter forest mitigation. We all know we have to do it, but I think there's a smarter way forward to do that. And I got a few bullets here I'll read to you and then ultimately just kind of let you know what I think the vision would be for the county. Smarter mitigation. The first thing that we would attempt to recover 80 to 90% of all the biomass we do during mitigation. Right now, they take good wood out and send it to the mills. They cord some wood up and then they mulch everything that's left and leave it on the floor. Well, all that's renewable material. If you create a process that instead of doing cordwood and all these other things, you mulch everything and create pellets. Create pellets and briquettes. So everybody that is a wood burner in the county that burns wood, cordwood, would use briquettes and everybody else would use pellets. Everybody that uses other methods, then we're not really addressing that. But 20% today of all the mitigation work done countrywide goes into some kind of renewable fuel. Most of it's wasted. And I think that's unfortunate because my estimates are we have about 25, 30 years worth of heating fuel in our forests for our county alone, if we can get this going. That's locally produced, locally generated, sold locally. The ultimate thing would be everybody that burns pellets buys them from us, and everybody that burns wood buys the briquettes from this entity. They're 90% cleaner than wood. And a lot of people don't realize that burning wood, cordwood, the soot is the second largest contributor to global warming. But leaving the climate whole discussion out of it, that is the truth of that. Burning cordwood is 90% dirtier than burning pellets and briquettes. And we have the resource right in the forest here in our county to cover every single home for decades off of this process with renewable thing. So that's a sustainable, renewable model that we should be able to build here and be really proud of, because I think it would set the pace. Anyone burning now doesn't really make a lot of sense not to buy from us. I actually had a long discussion with the handies over at ACE. In no uncertain terms, when we get our 501c, which we don't have yet, that's the last piece. They have agreed, and I won't hold them to this, but they have basically said, if you get your 501c going, we can small tool sponsor your group, chainsaws, pole saws, things like that. I'm not holding them to that, but that's the discussion we had. The second part of that discussion was if we get this pellet machine moving and start creating a product, they are willing to demo it in ACE stores so we can sell it to the public and see what and see how it's going to go. So that gives us a couple of nice things in the county to work with. I've spoken to the Amish community about getting in on some of this because we will have to thin out trees that are good trees and maybe they go to the mills. So they're willing to sit down and have this talk. The townships are willing to have this talk. So I've talked to some folks out at Corner Verde who has a good CWPP. They're interested in this. So I think players around the county that would be willing to discuss this, I don't think there'll be a lack of them. What I would like to ultimately do is explore this much further. You can see this folder. I'm not going to go through this because it's not the time for that, but I have everything in here from the concept, the business plan, how we expand this thing, how we fund it over a few years with grants, and how ultimately it will sustain itself. I think if we get a few years worth of grants to build the machine itself, get this mitigation work going this way, the smarter way, renew and pull everything from the field. We can make pellets and briquettes out of it. And my estimate is the operation will probably cost between $750 and $800 a year to run it with full operations. But it's also going to have about that much in revenue above and beyond that, because pellets go for about $300 a pallet right now. In the county, we need about 15,000 pallets or cords or however you want to say it a year to cover everybody. Well, that's a few $1 million worth of revenue minus the operations. What you could do with that revenue as a nonprofit is put it in a fund for the county, because we always have these grant matching fund issues. We could use that fund that we generate from selling pellets and bricks, create a fund so if we need $100,000 to match something, we have that. Just because we're talking about mitigation, I think that ultimately using the funds that we generate from pellet sales and briquette sales, we can use it for anything the county really needs, and just have a fund there for us all. We know money's tight. We get that. One of the things you could also do is use this nonprofit as sort of an agent to speak for the whole county's needs. We could use this as a way to apply for grants under this nonprofit, and then use a committee that we select, a couple from Westcliff, a couple from Silvercliff, a couple from towns, maybe somebody from fire, whoever else we need, business leaders, put this machine together and let people that know more than me poke holes in this and see if it's relevant, if it's valid. I've done big operations overseas for lots and lots of years, and I think this is super viable. I think we can build this, and I think the country needs this. Something that people don't know about pellets, and I sent you guys a paper, but pellets is becoming the thing of the future, the renewable source. Overseas, there are even full power plants, 3 gigawatt power plants that are totally powered off pellet fuel. So pellets is going to be the way things move in the future. Burning wood is going to have to get phased out because it's bad for the environment. So ultimately, what I would like is for the board to give me like a workshop. Let's have a workshop where we all sit down, look at the whole plan, look at the finances of it all, how it would go, get some players from all the different parts of the county, get some folks from fire, get Cindy to come in, because me and her have talked about this a little bit. And there's a couple of ways forward. You could run it straight as a nonprofit, produce the pellets as a nonprofit, put them back in the system, create the fund as a nonprofit. But there's another way too. You could also have a partnership between a nonprofit and a profit company. Like the mitigation could be done by the nonprofit, and we could have a separate facility, a regular profit company that generates and manufactures the plants locally. We hire everybody local, we do the whole thing local. We don't have to ship outside of the county. We don't have to store that much. We would tailor the production to meet our need. And that's where the sustainment comes in, because if we did it that way, I think we could get 15, 20 years of this fuel right from our own forest. For mitigation, we have to do anyway. We're not really moving in a fast direction to get the mitigation done. Maybe this is a way. Maybe if we can all get the same, on the same page and pull in the same direction, we can get some of this stuff done. So with that said, ultimately, I would like to see this nonprofit recover this material in a smarter way. So we recover most of the material for a pellet factory and briquette factory, and let this nonprofit see if we can pool everybody together and apply for grants together under this nonprofit. There's mechanisms for that in the Disaster Mitigation Act. There's mechanisms to use nonprofits like this in that way. And so if we have a big picture of creating a community that we sustain our own heating needs, that's cool. I mean, I think that's cool. That's something to build on. And I think that counties that saw this model get stood up over the next 3 or 4 years and see it start to work, everybody that's in the same boat as us, which there's 60 counties in Colorado that are pretty much the same as us. I think it's a sustainable model that will generate enough revenue from pellet sales and briquette sales to not only sustain its own operation, but to create a fund that we can use for other things in the mitigation world. New cisterns for the fire department, recovery efforts like Matt, he wanted to get some dump trailers for the fire so he could do brush collection. And all of that falls into this, because if they're going to do the brush collection, now what are they going to do with all this brush? Bring it to the pellet factory, we'll mulch it, we'll grind it, we'll make pellets out of all of it. Ultimately, that's what I think is worth a discussion. And that's why I'm coming to you now, because for me, I've done the planning that I can do. Now it's up to whether the county and the townships and everybody could say, okay, let's talk about that. Let's see if we can use this nonprofit as an agent to either pull grant funds together for everybody and then bid it out. There's a bunch of options, and I think we need more heads together than me. I can only do what I can do. I don't know everything, but I see this operation as definitely doable. And the money's out there for renewable grants and for community, like commodity based grants for renewable energy. There's a lot of different avenues to pull some of this funds. We can use this nonprofit to push these CWPPs, which right now it seems like the county is hinging the hazard mitigation plan as one big document that's going to cover everything. I still don't necessarily agree with that, but this would be a way to get a group of people together. That's not a singular focus. It's not my focus. It's a group of people's focus to say, yeah, we could probably build that factory here. It's not going to be some big monstrosity because, it is what it is. It's going to be built to sustain a certain production capacity. And that's where the balance would be. If you try to overproduce, you're going to do too much. You're going to need too much money for too big of an operation. You won't be able to fund it. But if you scale it to a reasonable output, say 20,000 pallets or 20,000 cords a year, because that's what we need for Custer County. Well, now you can skinny that down and see how much it takes, get everybody that's doing mitigation in the county now to come in here and have a talk about this, because ultimately we're not trying to put anybody out of work. We want to put everybody on the same mission, use this nonprofit. It doesn't have to be this nonprofit, but the idea of one central nonprofit group, putting everybody to work. Everybody that does mitigation, hey, they're going to get this grant money we get. We're going to still put the same people to work. We're not going to put everybody that's doing cordwood stuff, repurpose that. They got equipment, they got materials. Let's put them on this plan and see what they think. Can we do this? Can we recover enough mulch to create a pellet factory here? Because if we can, we'll be the first ones that I've heard of in the country that's really pushing something that is sustainable, that sits right there in the forest, that we have the people, the resources, the The tools, the machinery, everybody's local, but everybody's pulling in a different direction right now. Everybody's fighting for their little piece of the pie. Well, let's give everybody a fair piece of the pie based on the needs from the county. You know, we already know where the priorities are at. We already know where we need to start. You know, it's not a mystery, but we don't have the money. We don't have everybody wrapped into a tight little ball to make something like this happen. I think, like, again, this is my 30 years of operations experience saying this plan works. I really believe this plan works, but without county buy-in and township buy-in and fire buy-in and, you know, if without buy-in, then it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to start submitting grants to try to make this happen on my own. But if we all pull together, maybe that's a way forward. And so that's what I hope, that we can agree to set up a workshop so I can really brief you on the whole thing. Give us a couple of weeks down the road so we can, each of us, you know, hopefully bring the players in that might be interested to hear something like this. And at the end of the meeting, at the end of the workshop, we say, hey, there's a better way forward. Let's not do that. Well, then, cool. But right now, I don't think anybody's talking about something like this, especially not a sustainable way forward. And that's something, as much as we all want to balk about it, this country is going in that direction. And if we don't start, I don't know, there's going to be extra money for things like this because of this administration, because of the things that are happening in the country, because of the weather. Everybody's pointing their fingers at this sustainable, green, climate kind of smart communities. Let's move this thing that way. So that's what I'm asking. If we could just agree to set a workshop up, make me a happy guy so I can get this out of my head and put it on you. And then
Make us happy. get you
that's
out
right.
of
And
here.
then once I put it on everybody, if we all say, hey, let's do that, I'll be more than happy to continue pushing this ball. Or if not, maybe there's other ways. Maybe somebody that we can bring into this has, oh, we're already doing this way or that way. I don't think so. I've talked to Cindy a few times. I've talked to lots of folks a bunch of times about this. Nobody's going this direction. Nobody's trying to build something that will not only help the community, it just helps the community in a bunch of different ways. So with that, I will successfully bow out of this discussion and ask if we can do this workshop. And that's what I was here for today. And I didn't want to beat a dead horse. There's a lot to discuss in this plan. A lot, and it's worthy of a discussion. So this isn't the place for that, the big picture of it. But if you give me that time, I think you'll be happy with it at the end of it. So that's all I have, gentlemen.
Have you visited with any of the other entities that you brought up, the towns or fire?
I have.
Or anything?
Only folks I haven't talked to are the local mitigation guys. And I haven't talked to Greenleaf. But I've talked to the townships, I've talked to fire, I've talked to Adrian a bunch of times about Adrian believes in his plan as well.
Actually, his plan with all the acres that are there, it's not 30 years, it's forever.
Yeah, well, that's I'm trying to be conservative and be reasonable.
And because as you do it, you keep cycling, you go back and do it again.
That's right.
Trees grow.
That's right.
It's a crop.
That's right. It's totally.
And he did mention the pellet factory as well. And actually, back in the old days, we used to take our sawdust to the power plant in Canyon and burn it with it. I never got wasted.
Sure.
And brush and other kind of thing. So it's a good idea, and I think it's worth looking at, but to get a big picture piece.
That's really all I'm asking for, gentlemen, is really a chance to sit down, get some other players that are going to have a say in this thing to say,
Sure,
poke holes in it, because I don't know everything. But so other than that, that's all I got.
thanks.
Yeah, I read the paper, appreciate that, a lot of information in there. Of course, had some questions, but those can be dealt with down the road. So your ask is for us to sponsor a workshop.
Yes, that we can invite. And you guys can invite who you think would be a player in
And be
this.
all the municipalities and everybody's got a dog in the fight. That'd be up to you to put the guests.
And that's fine with me. If we agree to the workshop, I'll put the guest list together. It'll be a
Agree
good
to
meeting.
the guests.
No problem with that. And I'm meeting with Silver Cliff about this again this evening, because they're already kind of on board. I spoke to Mayor Wenzel quite a bunch of times about this. They like the plan and they want to hear the whole thing. And so I'm gonna talk to them again, because again, it's not about Silver Cliff or West Cliff or the townships or fire. It's gotta be everybody.
Okay.
Anything else? No.
No. So we'll get with you through our PIO. whatever here.
Perfect. That's all I need, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks.
Okay, next item up would be our consideration of Murphy STR. Dorothy, you are up.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you again.
I found a way out of our entry fee thing, by the way, because if you can't spell Commissioner's property. we're not
He
interested.
pointed it out to me already. I was in a hurry.
We'll wait a minute.
I threw that together this morning right before I came in.
No entry fee.
Just on behalf of the planning commission, they are recommending approval of the Murphy short-term rental application. I believe you guys have that in your little packet. And I also put together just detailing the vote. It was unanimous that it be approved with no conditions. So in other words, the last one had some conditions about adding additional fire alarms or smoke detectors and things like that. There were no conditions on this one. It's very well put together.
I noticed that when I went through the paperwork, they had put together a pretty good package.
Yeah, they did.
Yes.
You may not have heard this. Legal counsel commended you on your presentation to the planning commission, said you did a great job.
Trying to butter you up for something, so we gotta work this over a little bit. Yeah, he wants a free dinner.
That's right.
I move that we accept the recommendation from the planning commission. For the Murphy STR.
Second. I do have a motion on the floor to accept the recommendation from the planning commission to approve the STR application for the Murphy application. Further discussion.
I didn't realize Charlie was part of this gig. Maybe I'll take it back.
Oh, come on. I was hoping you wouldn't. Okay, so,
Yes, you may.
yeah, I was a little surprised that there were no conditions.
Yeah.
It's probably the first one that we've seen that they have not put any conditions on it. Would you guess that, or do you think that is because they addressed anything that had been an issue before, or?
I think they have their
other
packet.
STRs, or?
They have their packet very well put together. I think they're very impressed with the property manager that they have there. That was brought up several times. Their map in and out of there. I think the location, a lot of what we usually get a condition on is to redoing the fire map, the map escape plan, if you will, in the house or out and getting out to a county road. This one's set right in between two county roads, makes it very easy.
And then if I may, I saw I'm looking for it here, the one letter from I'm assuming that was an adjoining landowner, William.
Yes, a part-time resident.
Is that the only document you received
Yes,
from adjoining?
most of the other adjoining properties are not, there's no one built, no one's built, no structures, no one's living there.
And I noticed on their ad that, let me go back to that. Yes, it was in their applicant statement that they said Paul and Nicole Parsons are related, correct? Or did I misread that?
They're co-applicants, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And family.
Yes. Mainly the daughter and son doing it, but the parents also are part of ownership.
I think that's
Probably
probably
on that first page, if I remember.
Yeah, it was. Under the statement.
Yeah.
And these folks don't live here, they live over in Montreal, correct?
You sure,
No,
you're good?
I'm good. Nice packing.
Okay, any discussion from here in the room? Online, seeing no hands. I do have a motion on the floor to accept the recommendation from the planning commission to accept the Murphy STR application. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I do have a general question about STR, if I may, sir.
Certainly.
This is in zone 3 or zone 2?
This particular one, it is, and it's the last
Last one,
one
that, okay,
and the only one this year.
that was where I was headed.
Yeah.
So
We're
so
done.
this,
Well,
the
we're almost-
quota has been filled in that particular.
Yes, but it resets in January. We're actually, our first planning commission meeting is in February, so it'll start over in February.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Dorothy. Good job.
Thank you. Ready? Thank you much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for working on that party. Okay, next item up would be to ratify for the E and E vendor disclosure for the Custer County Kids Council. That's also in your packet. And I did sign that, that is a annual contract takes place, and I did sign that on the 7th. And so
I would move to ratify your signing the vendor disclosure statement. Was there additional pages, and this is the only signature page? Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. My
yes.
motion is to ratify. you.
I second that motion.
Okay, so I do have a motion on the floor to ratify my signature. On the vendor disclosure statement. I do believe there were additional pages in the document. This is the signature is all you have here. So any further discussion? Anything online? I'm seeing no hands. So those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did you vote?
No, sir, I was elsewhere. Sorry.
Distracted.
I would vote yes on the motion. That's all.
I didn't think the battery died in my hearing aid. I know.
Sorry, I
No.
don't do too many things at once.
Okay, so motion carries. The next item up on the agenda is the consideration of adding a county manager position. I did get some documents submitted, albeit not until this morning.
I didn't see any.
Yeah, so
It's in your packet.
Should,
And it got buried.
you should have one, which is a CTSI salary survey and then a county manager
I
data
think we're making it there.
spreadsheet.
D,
Oh, survey, it didn't say county manager.
and here's the other. Item D,
Got it.
item.
Okay,
D.
got it.
And I put this on the agenda. I've made the comment a few times since I've been here, I see multiple times a need that we have to have a position like this in the county. I believe at one time, Mr. Farron actually acted as a county manager in the past, and then that position went away. I feel that there's a need to move forward with this. It would clean up a lot of things. One of the things that we discussed a lot this last year, as well as getting a lot of our policies and procedures tightened up and in order. That would fall under this position as well. As well as budgeting. I think if you look at the spreadsheet on the county manager data, that has some different counties around, some smaller than us, some larger than us. It also has, if you look in the right-hand column of that, basic job descriptions of the managers in those different counties. They do vary some. Probably there are quite a few of them that they all run with the day-to-day operations and handling the situations within the departments, budgets, and also policies. And, that is something that, you know, due to the wide scope of how they are put together, it would depend on how specific we wanted to be as far as job duties. There's also salary ranges in there. Iowa County would probably be moving backwards. Theirs comes in at 37,000 and change. So I think, you know, given that, I think we want to throw out the high and the low and take the medium there. But as far as the salary range, so those salary ranges are then actually running from probably from, I guess, CTSI for under $10 million budget counties. You're looking at, that's a 63,356 to the 10 to 50 million. I think we kind of fall right in the break there, if I'm not mistaken, but their average salary for their managers is 117,000. But I will back out here. That's the need that I have seen, and I wanted to bring that forward before our budget meetings Monday and Tuesday, so that if we agree, that we can discuss that during the budget hearings. So I would open up the floor.
Well, as you are somewhat aware, I've been pushing for a county manager for over 2 years. I've got 4 job descriptions for the county manager from Werfenau, Chaffee, Fremont, and Hinsdale counties. I believe we need one. I don't think we can stumble over, well, you can't afford one. I think we're at the point where we can't afford not to have one. It's becoming increasingly clear every month. It seems like that we have got to have clear direction to move our county forward, particularly from a policies and procedure standpoint. And I think county manager certainly would be part and parcel to developing that. But also that we, in my opinion, need a manager. We don't need 3 managers. We need 1 manager and we need 3 policymakers. I think that's how our government, county government here is structured. It just, we end up being individual managers trying to run the whole county when we really should be concerned about policies and direction and strategic planning and that kind of stuff. So I've got some issues with the general job descriptions of these 4 counties. And one of those is particularly that they use their county manager as their budget officer. they may have a good reason. I haven't talked to them about that, but I don't know why we wouldn't use our finance director as our budget officer, but
And in seeing the ones that I have here, most of them you do utilize them to be putting together the budget.
right.
Not necessarily, a couple of them probably actually even use them for the day-to-day finance, but as a rule, I think most of them are the budget, and then the finance department is still responsible for AP and payroll and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's what I saw going through all of that. The counties that you included plus the ones that I had. And I don't quite get that. I would just have to talk to them and see why that is. I would think their finance office would be their budget office as well, but. And then the same thing with the whole personnel. Most of the job descriptions talked about being a personnel officer as well, and our county's set up a little different.
So, yeah, and that would be discussion that would have to take place as to exactly what the duties that we would put forth for county manager, his scope of work and authority. Because you can go anything from following direction to having, a wide variety of leeway as far as authority is concerned. So that's something that we would need to put in place where we wanted that to fit and how it looked.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't create a job description that would allow them to do a good job, what's the point?
Yeah, that's,
I just don't think we need a lot of duplication of.
a lot of, and to the one point you made, a lot of these descriptions that I've got some of the duties are duties that right now our HR finance office is doing. So we would need to look at how that, what we pulled out of there to do to a county manager, and then what that makes that department look like as well. Just some thoughts that I've had.
I got several thoughts. One is the citizens of the county elected each of us to manage this county. That's our job to do it wisely. And what you just described, the way you described it, sounds like we're ceding all our authority to one guy. And that's our job. I don't think there's, if we manage this correctly the way we should, and we've got an org chart right behind Tom's shoulder over there, what we agreed to as managing commissioners to manage the departments under us. And to a leader does exactly that we have people that have the expertise. You have budget, and you have the HR, and you've got things. We need to use our people to develop those policies. That's what I thought we were trying to do. And that's what you have to delegate. We're delegating our authority in the chain. I'm not going to go, I would never agree to focusing on one person leading the entire county. I mean, and us sitting here, I'm afraid we'd sit here with that guy and we'd have the same discussion. How come you did this? And we go through the whole process. We'd be managing it to the second seat. So when I saw this, I was surprised to see it on the agenda today. But when I saw it, I did some research and looked at it in a day I was listening to you, Kevin. You were very upset when we want to make our people, the people of the county make enough money to support themselves in this county. And we needed to figure out how do we increase the salary enough so that a family can make a living up here. If we take $60,000 to pay somebody to do our job, rather than taking that 60,000 across the 80 employees we've got. And give them a pay raise if we wanted to. We've got to make them competitive. We got to keep the people, and once we train them to do excel. We want a world-class outfit in the sheriff's office, the road and bridge guys, the courthouse people, everybody. So in this day and age, I would be adamantly against doing this right now. And I asked Mr. Senderhoff here to come today because he was instrumental in getting a county manager a long time ago. And I go, Bob, did you do that? Really? Why in the world would you do something like that? At that time, when the county even had less population than we have now, was that a good idea? And I couldn't believe that happened. And then not long after that, they fired him. And I asked him why. So I would like Bob to explain yourself and help us understand what happened in there and why that was necessary at that time and why it wasn't later and he was fired. So can you tell me that?
Well, first of all, I'll certainly let you know the process of what we did in those days. And in those days, when we did hire that person, I was a county commissioner at the time. And it was a situation where we didn't have the money, just like it's always tough to hit those budgets. But I was able to go to the tilt money in those days. And
Matt, you can come around here and sit down there.
I didn't want to interrupt.
He started.
The tilt money is something that we never went after as a county. And as I studied it, it was the money that was coming out of the mining and different areas. And then that money went into the state, and then they redistributed that money into the various communities. Well, I did go up to the session, and it was a 12-person board, and the governor's had his person there. And everybody stood up and gave their presentations. And we were trying to figure out how we were going to pay for somebody like this. And what we were able to glean out of that particular meeting is I was able to get the state to pay for that position. So
Why did you need the position? Did you state that? Yeah.
the town or
You
the
needed
manager.
a manager for what reason?
For what reason? The manager, what we're trying to do at that period of time is to coordinate what we were doing in the county, what the town of Westcliff was doing, the town of Silvercliff. So what we did is we said the county manager would be 3 days for the county, 1 day for Westcliff, and 1 day for Silvercliff. And that way we brought everybody in together, the two towns and the county. And then it was funded through tilt money that came to the county, and we were able to then hire a person to do that for that period of time. Then what happened is it then evolved to the point where the county commission, we didn't have a secretary, as an example. So now we got a good one and we're putting forward. But then also, then it came into the budgets. And that's when, we entered into getting an HR person and expanding this. And we took those duties from the manager and distributed amongst the other folks in the courthouse. And we were then able to turn around, and we did not get any more money, and then that's why that position was then terminated, because we didn't have the funding to do it.
You had Dola, I thought you said
Dola, yeah,
that was working, the
we
reason
had to
it
go in
came
front of the Hill people, but Dola is the one that funded it.
because of the court and because you were improving the courtroom.
Okay, that was one of the.
That's what spurred it. the first
It was a 2-tier deal. The other issue was we were trying to get money
to, for the courtroom, to expand that in the judges area and social services. So what we did is we had to tie it all together, which we did. And when you make your presentation, they tell you right there, yes or no. So they approved the manager and they tabled the money that we got for the expansion and the upgrade of social services in the courtroom. So it was all over, or a break, I guess it was a break. And Tim Schultz, who was the #1 man for the Governor Romer in those days. And he called me up and he said, you know, we did go ahead, Bob, and, you know, approve that, you know, for the manager, but let me do some digging and see what I can do to get you a grant for the expansion. Within 48 hours, the call came down from the governor's office that we were then granted the money for the expansion. Okay, so it wasn't a burden on the taxpayers at that time for that part of it, or for the manager. And one of the reasons, I'm gonna put this out there, the comment that came back from the governor's office was, in those days, he had what he called the dome on the range. I don't know if anybody in here even recalls that. But that's when the governor would come out to the various communities, rural communities, not the big cities. Because that's what he wanted to accomplish and bring the dome to us, so to speak. I did put together a presentation for him when he came to this county. And I won't go into a lot of detail, but we did have a barbecue. When the buses came in, we did provide, you know, some drinks and fruit and vegetables, you know, fruits and that sort of thing. So anyway, the governor was very pleased with what we had accomplished here in Custer County. And the next day after he left, we got the call back that he was going to set up all his other meetings based on what we did here in the county. Okay, so he knew who we were. We got the money for the expansion, the cost of taxpayers, and then when the money ran out for that position, that's when that was eliminated and put all of those duties back on the different
Departments that you created because of that to manage the county. So you didn't need a manager any longer and eliminated the positions.
No, at that point, we did need the man.
And that's really my point. We have departments that have the technical and capabilities to do exactly what needs to be done. We've got to use them. We need to be a responsible leader and trust them to give us the options. What are the policies we want? We outline those things. That's the same thing a county manager would do. That's what we are.
Well, and to that point, and you brought that up a couple times, we've been talking about it, updating our policies for quite some time now, but it hasn't moved from square.
You're the manager of that line. You could have asked, and I'm not gonna step into your line. So I didn't ask anybody to do it. We could have had a meeting and we can do those things. It's the same on the, and I'm doing that with the airport board now, on the people that I'm managing. But we do need those policies, and we did a good job with the STRs. You know, with the planning and zoning, or the director of zoning and planning, putting that together, and we participated together and came up with a very good policy that still needs some polishing, but it worked. I don't want to waste the taxpayers' money, and I don't want to waste our time. We don't need to do a lot of the things in the weeds that we tend to do. We need to let Kelly Camper do it. We need to let Braden Wilson do it. We need to let Laura Lockhart do those things and come together and then agree upon that as a policy. Because that's the same thing that county manager would do for $60,000.
And this would clean a lot of that up. I would respectfully disagree with you.
That's okay, you can, but
So,
so what I would recommend that you gotta be careful, because I'm telling you, I'm not gonna agree to it, and that's okay. Unless we get, if I maybe table this, get it on a hearing on this, or let the public mull it over. Understand why we think we need, or you do, I don't. And let's build the case. Otherwise, press on if you, but that's my position.
I've just seen multiple times when I see, in my opinion, a need for this to clean up a lot of this stuff and to move forward. And you said it's up to me to take that step. I think this is the step we need to take that step.
Okay.
And so that would be my opinion. And, you know, I value your opinion as well. I'm not discounting that in any way, shape, or form.
I'm not on stone that. I'm just saying, I think that's a sidestep, Kevin, because it's just putting a middleman in there that's not gonna gain any more benefit, I don't think.
So,
Well, I appreciate what you say, Mr. Kanda. And I think I understand where you're coming from. I'm not in a panic about the money. You need to be here on a day-to-day basis to find out what the problems really are. I'm not saying that derogatorily. Every day, somebody needs a decision made. Somebody said, I don't know what to do about this. Who do I talk to about this? How do I get this toilet fixed? How do we get the carpet replaced in the break room? How do we get new carpet in the courtrooms? What about water leaking into the lights in the entryway? What about who's gonna lock and unlock these? These are day-to-day issues that come up that Board of County Commissioners should not be dealing with. That's what a county manager.
I agree,
would do.
the board should not be.
You can't say, and we have, and it's a sorry way to run a county. Well, Kelly, you're here most of the time, you're kind of, you take care of that, you be in charge of this, you run the scales, you make sure the doors are unlocked and unlocked, and Vernon, you make sure we get notices put on the front doors, and those are, as I understand it, those would be jobs that a county manager would handle the day-to-day operation of this county.
You know what he would do, Tom? He would ask the maintenance guy to open the doors and we'll run the scales or expand the thing and get an approval from the board that here's my action. That should be the same thing that happens now. There's no reason in the world why we can't work that as a leader of that product line, that business line that we have under each of us to allow that to happen. And if they wonder how to get the toilet plugged, we got a guy that's supposed to be doing that. And if it's not the right guy, then it's up to the who's got the maintenance job under. Get that guy. Let's have another person or expand that job and make it happen. Pay the people that need the work. That ought to be doing that, or hiring the contractor to come in. We don't need to do it personally.
Well,
and I am here. I understand the day-to-day activities. I really do. And part of the problem is if we're sitting in this building and that's all we're doing, then we're doing a disservice to the other two commissioners that have that line under. I always refer somebody to you or to Tom if it's in that line. I'm not going to make that decision unless it's the other day when they were working the mold issue in the SAR building. Tom, you were all over that, and then all of a sudden it was an emergency because you weren't there. Well, fine. They called, they were looking for a commissioner, but normally that was, whoever was handling it should handle it. So they would have called the county manager. It would just have been a middleman that's in the middle that doesn't need to be there.
to have the authority to make that action in the stead of a county commissioner.
No,
To your point, I took 6 months to get 4 heaters ordered and installed in the rock building, in the rock house over here. Should I have been the one to have to do that?
Maybe not, but why didn't
Or
we
should
get
that,
somebody?
would
to
that
do it?
have fallen under the county manager to be able to take care of that, and he would have the authority to get that done? So,
It depends on how you handle it, Kevin. If we hired, if we needed a heater guy, then get a contractor to do it, or maybe it was under the maintenance job on the building, that's who I'd have put it under. And if you didn't like because the maintenance guy hasn't got the ability to do that or the authority, then that should be where it is. We shouldn't be worrying about that either. I agree. But we have the resources at our fingertips now to do that. We don't need a middleman to take $60,000 that could be put into either a pay increase or a new position. I understand we're short in sheriff's office or wherever it needs to be. And so I think we need to sleep on it. I don't think we're in a position to vote on that today at all, especially given the economy, the pressures that are on there. We are hired and they're expecting us to manage this county, not one guy.
May I?
you may,
I've taken a little exception to a couple statements, Bill, respectfully. I don't think we were hired to manage this county. I think we were hired to govern this county. I think there's a huge difference. I don't think we have any business micromanaging the day-to-day minutia of this county.
Right on.
I guarantee you, I've done it since the day I got elected. Some of it I did willingly, some of it I volunteered to do. Some of it, there was nobody else. Now, if you don't believe that, it's because you have not been around it.
I believe that, and I believe you
All right.
didn't need to do that, Tom. I really do. I believe that it could have been done by appointing the right guy, using the people in your line that have the authority to do that. If it's a maintenance guy, you didn't need to be plumbing the toilets. You
There were many a time when we didn't have a maintenance person, and
Well,
I shoveled the sidewalks.
You don't need
I
to do
fixed
that.
the
That's my
toilets.
point. There's people that need a job. We can find those people
Well,
in the county people that need the work. We don't need to be doing that. We need to be leading the county and managing. There's a difference. You're a leader of the county. That's true. We also are responsible to manage, and that's by statute. I can cite the statute.
I'm listening, I'll write her down.
And so, and which we did, is authorized to create by resolution duty of managing commissioner with the duties and authority and the oversight of the department. We signed that. You and I signed it together. It's called this is a commissioner's sworn duties, responsibilities, obligations, and standards that we all voted to take on. And that was part of the deal. That's why that chart was written over there. Those are it's not just a point of contact. And if you're not a commissioner there to go and do the job for that commissioner, those are our jobs, that clarified the conflicts between the commissioners that would step in and make a decision in somebody else's line and confuse the employees. Who am I going to go to get my leave slip signed? Those kinds of things. It's mundane things, as well as who's accountable for the maintenance in this building or our buildings. It's not Tom Flowers, not Bill Cannon, it's not Kevin Day. It's the people that are that we set up to do that. So anyway, that's where I am. And I do think that this requires more thought.
Oh, I agree.
I wouldn't vote on this today
comfortable
at all.
today Necessarily. I'm not sure that's what,
If we can build a case, then I'll listen.
Kevin, I don't know if he was expecting a vote today, but I
Well,
want to speak to.
consideration implies that.
I'd like to
let him
speak to
go ahead and
this.
finish.
Was originally a point of contact, now it's become a management plan, basically. We have this because we don't have a county manager. Pretty simple. County manager would be doing all of this stuff. And we would be doing what we should be doing, and that's governing the county.
Let me finish
Just
that.
another business model is all this is.
No, it isn't, Tom. It was set up. You know why there's 3 commissioners? There's not one governor of the county. It's like there's a governor of the state. There's 3 commissioners because that's the way that you resolve it as the lowest form of a republic representative, that we work directly for the people, not the governor. We don't work for the governor. And we do govern the county. And it was set up by statute to have 3 people that would manage the different lines in there so that there wasn't a single point of failure or conflict. And it allowed for us to have the discussion, not debates, discussion and agreeing on the right things to resolve issues. That's why it was set up. And those weren't points of contact. Those were always meant to be how they managed those departments within the counties. Bigger counties have more people, more commissioners. And some of them did agree that they needed some help because the county populations that warranted it. And they, more work, more budgets, more need for CPA, whatever. I don't believe we're at that stage right now. A population of what do we have? 4,500 people roughly in the county. I lost the sense. To do that, that's our job. And to manage the lines of business, just like a corporation would, or a company, or any other government agency. They don't take the vice presidents and then form one guy underneath all the vice presidents, or the governor doesn't have one person that does it all for the state. They have those departments that they let do the leadership. But anyway, we don't need to debate it here. I really think
we do need to.
no, I think we
And
need to
that's
debate
why-
it. I didn't say today.
Well, and that's,
Well, it's on
it's on the
today.
agenda for today. And
I'm thinking.
I
we ought
would
to
say
table it.
you've made the comment that a county manager sets you up for one guy to have the failure. That one person works for the 3 commissioners.
Yeah, but you've given your authority to him.
And
He can make
how much
decisions.
authority? That's
Well,
part
that's
of
the
the
point.
question, is how much authority do you give him?
Mhm.
And he only acts under the scope of his authority that is given to him and under the direction of the 3 county commissioners. It's not that we just say, okay, you're the county manager, go for it.
Well,
It is
Attorney
up
Lynch.
to us to give him the direction
I
that
agree.
he needs to go.
I agree.
And so speaking to that, so it is still under our authority that he acts. And he is not allowed to act out of the scope of what he is given.
I agree.
I'm not sure. I get where county population comes in the salary thing. But to me, the county population has nothing to do whether we need a manager or not.
Well, you can look, we've got one here with 781
Right.
people in the county, one with 924. We've got one with 49,600.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't look at it from the standpoint of the number of people that live in our county has anything to do with
Yeah.
governance and responsibilities
I-
to get the job done. I don't see that correlation. That's all I'm saying.
It depends. It depends on the county of 700. Maybe they got 1,000 miles of road and $10 million to manage. I don't know the details. The whole point is, we need to, and I don't agree right now that we need it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, that's why we're trying to have a discussion about it, correct?
Mhm.
If, as I've been told many a times, there's 3 of us, there's 3 votes. I get that.
Mhm.
I've always felt like it since I've been a commissioner that we micromanage when we shouldn't be. We should be more involved in governing the county and looking at a lot of stuff from a high altitude level and not get into this day-to-day stuff.
I agree, Tom, and that's where I've been the whole time. I do not micromanage. I do not do that. And we shouldn't get sucked into that. I agree.
Well, we do get sucked into
Well,
it because we don't have
only-
anybody else to do it. There are times when I've looked at Kelly as kind of a county manager. Let's get Kelly's take on that because she has this general wide feel of the pulse. Well, that's not fair to her. It's not fair to anyone else. It's just a county manager would be a go-to person. Now, if there's anybody that's a little freaked out about giving up control, it would be me. That's my personality.
I know, and that's what I'm trying to point out.
But I think that I need to rise above that and say, okay, let's develop a scope of work that we believe works for our county. That's why I couldn't recommend any other job description that I researched, because they wouldn't work for our county. And then delegate that authority and that spending authority and let that person manage the county. That's what we would be hiring a person for. I looked at some of the requirements on those job descriptions. 2 of those counties required a master's degree in business administration. They just didn't hire somebody off the street to give them a job. They needed a professional to manage their county. And I would support that approach. So were you expecting us to vote today, or were you expecting us to agree?
I put it on as consideration in case we did
Okay.
want to vote on it today. The reason being is because Monday, Tuesday, we have our budget workshops. And if we were wanting to move forward with this, I wanted that to be known when we entered that, because that's, you know,
Right.
that's a dollar figure that needs plugged in that budget.
Right.
And so if the decision is not made today, if nobody's comfortable voting on that today, we could set it up for another meeting. But that being said, during the budget meetings, I will push to earmark a certain dollar amount in case we do move forward with this. Just because I don't want to end up moving forward with this and not having
Right.
that accounted for. in
Okay,
the
so,
budget.
good point. I think it's unfair to put it on a meeting in 2 days and we're gonna vote on it. That's not the right
That's
thing.
fair enough.
Not something this important. And it needs to be thought out, it needs to be worked, and then we need to make sure we all agree that we do it or not. Because given there's a lot of options that we haven't looked at, how do we manage the people we currently have? How do we give the authority that we already have to designate, I'll keep using the maintenance guy because it's just an easy example, could be anything, could be Braden Wilson putting the budget together. He's putting the budget together and he's got the equipment to do a better job now than he ever was before. Because look at what he's done already with the new process. So anyway, it's not fair to do it now. I don't mind having another discussion, or let's get some more ideas in. We need the public comment on it as well, I believe. Because I represent people and I did, because of this campaign that went on, I listened to a lot of people, all parties, all walks of life, on what they are expecting us to do to manage this county and govern the county, if you want to say that. So that's my feeling. I think we'll catch all kinds of heat. I don't care about the heat if it's the right thing to do. Without communicating, though, that's the issue. We have to communicate so that they aren't surprised. People aren't surprised. That's who we work for. They're our bosses.
Well, I think the communication would be to inform the public that we hired a county manager.
Okay, that's your
If you
opinion.
want to go out and do a poll.
No, I don't want to
find
poll.
out
That's
if
not the
they-
point. Not
They
the point at
think
all.
we need to hire one or not. To me is
Okay.
irrelevant and pointless. It's none of the average citizen's business whether we have a county manager or not. That's
Okay.
our decision, and then we have to justify that. If we can't justify it, then we shouldn't do it.
All right, I'm not going to say another one.
I think we do need to include this discussion in our budget meeting. I don't believe we're at the point where any of us would say we cannot afford to do this. We don't have the money to do this.
Well, I don't think we're at the point where we can show that we can sustain it yet.
Okay.
Right? You can appoint it. We know that there's some rollover money to start it if we wanted to. We don't know that you can sustain it. We had that discussion when we said, well, we're going to give these pay raises. We're going to have to live with it next year and the next year and the next year. That's the issue.
I don't think it's the issue. I mean, you look at the assessed valuation in the last 5 years. They've increased anywhere between 5 and 12%. So if you look at a reasonable approach to say, can we sustain it? You look at the history and say, your assessed valuation has gone up an average of about 5-6%.
Okay, and I'll use that same argument to let the sheriff put in a pay raise for his people because he can sustain it.
Yeah.
Same for road and bridge. I would say that would be a good thing to do because we want to keep that motor grader guy that's trained up, employed. I would do that before I did anything else, if that's the case. If our assessments are that great and we've got confidence in it, then we're gonna go forward.
Yeah, and that's that conversation that would happen during the budget hearing.
That's right.
I agree. When I say afford, I mean, can we afford it today and can we afford it next
That's
year? the year
exactly
after,
right.
and so on.
And do we need it? Do we need the sheriff deputy? Yes. Do we need a county manager? I don't know. Yet.
Yeah, it's part of it's philosophical. There's no question about that. Where we shake out, where we come at it from a philosophy of how we're gonna run the county.
Mhm.
Okay, so I am hearing that we are not ready to move forward on this. I did put it on as consideration in case we were. But from the general consensus, we need to have more discussion on this. So I think we should table this at this time. And we picked up again at a time to be determined.
Do you want to put a corral around that? You want a motion to table? If you do, then you need a specific date. If you want to postpone it. I would close that as well. Maybe we can't, if,
I do not want to put it off indefinitely.
Yeah,
but I would
It
recommend-
needs to come back.
But I would recommend postponing it only because we're gonna bring it up in the budget hearings. That might help us corral a time. Right now, you can make up a time, it doesn't matter, it's irrelevant.
I would, looking at the calendar, I would say our budget hearings are next Monday and Tuesday, and then a week after that is our end of month BOCC meeting. What would your gentleman's opinion be of adding that to the month end meeting?
That would be wrong. I don't want, that's too soon. We got the budget, we gotta go through the budget stuff. I would like to have
You've also got to have your budget in by the middle of December.
right, but that's okay. I mean, we don't need to have the decision made on whether we're gonna spend the money. We can block any amount of money we want for pay raises or on the thing.
I would disagree. If we're gonna put in a budget, if we're gonna have a county manager, we need to have that.
No, it's not what I meant, Kevin. What I mean is that we know if we wanted to look at how we would give pay raises throughout the year, we can block that out. We can block out a position for county manager. We can do that without having a decision to do a county manager. If we thought it was necessary to do in the future, we can carry that. Or we can do it.
well, I would move we postpone until November 30. Doesn't mean we have to make a
That's
decision
right.
that day, but it's on the agenda
That's fine.
Second.
as a consideration item.
So I do have a motion on the floor to postpone consideration of adding county manager position to the November 30th BOCC meeting.
Is there room on that, or do we do it on the 1st or 2nd of December?
Well, we actually have more room on the 30th because the next meeting will be December 6th, and it's a combined meeting. And
Oh, that's
we have
right.
all
We
of
did
the
away with one.
reports. And
Okay.
you're not going over, it is not scheduled, it is not on the agenda right now to go over budget. On the November 30th.
Right, it
So,
shouldn't be.
right, so you actually will have more time at this point. Let me pull it up.
That's probably enough time.
Board packet, the 30th. I have on the agenda The only thing is AP and consideration of approving hotel and restaurant liquor license for San Isabel.
That'll take forever.
So those are the only items that are on the agenda. And would this be under unfinished business?
No, just another.
Okay. Just double checking and
I've never seen it, anything under unfinished business. It's gotta be neat to have something.
I don't even know why we have it on the calendar or on the agenda.
well, I thought unfinished business was for things that were tabled. That's,
Technically, no, but we could handle it under unfinished business, unlike you. Rare.
So I haven't seen anything since I've been here, so that's just, you know.
and the only other thing that you told me today that needed to be added to the 30th was consideration of the recycle grant, which won't take all of that. So,
I'm good.
Okay. So those in favor of postponing consideration of adding county manager position to the November 30th agenda, signify by saying aye.
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 Thanks, Bob, for coming. That was informative.
Good history.
The background.
Thank you. Any additional items of business, gentlemen?
And then,
I have a couple of things that came in while this meeting has gone on. One, Braden sent an email to you all. And you will notice it is the dedicated service checks. They're supposed to go out next week. It was in the budget. So he doesn't believe that there's anything that needs to be done, but since it was last minute, wanted to make sure that, well, we had you to at least see if there's anything that needs to be done with that, so please check your email. And I have something else after that.
well, historically, we always voted on that.
So do we need to vote on that? If it was an agenda, if it was approved in the budget last year?
Say that again.
Since these dedicated service checks were approved in the budget, whenever you created the budget for 2020 or 2022, do you need to vote on it before these checks go out?
Didn't we vote on
Or is
get
it
there?
something that needs to be on the agenda for the 30th? But he was planning on sending them out next week.
I don't know why we would have to redo it.
I don't know either. I'm just
Just,
double
he-
checking.
He's just following through with what he was supposed to be doing.
Correct, but
I think in the past, Tom, the reason you guys voted on it is because it wasn't ever put in the.
That's
budget,
right.
And then you discussed that last year and it was, and you put it.
He has the authority to do it.
I think I remember that conversation.
I do
Okay.
too.
So.
as long as you're good, I just wanted to make sure that didn't need to be an additional item.
Budgeted item can just come out of the budget.
The next item, the next thing that I had come in and I put it in your Google Drive. And it is Joni Liebman emailed me a contract that she would like filled out with a American Trailer Rental Group. Because they are having a container delivered. Would like to have it delivered next week. But I don't feel like I have the authority to fill out this document without your all's approval. So I'm your secretary, I'm your admin. I don't have any authority to make any decisions on
You had
this.
to throw that out there.
I did. I was going to fill it out, but I know that I believe that Sustainable Ways is actually paying for it. Is that correct, Tom?
Yeah,
And
that's my understanding.
but that it's going to be on county property and I know that there's going to need to be more information, but I don't believe it's going to be
Thanks.
any additional funds coming out of the county right now.
I see there was a page in there for
Credit.
credit application.
Uh-huh. And that's why I didn't feel comfortable without having you all look at it.
Would that
And-
be sustainable waste credit information or would that be county?
Whenever I sent her an email, she said, this is county. Since she believes that it would be a county as the customer.
I don't know. That's a good question, because there's a
Right.
subcontractor, sustainable ways, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
It was up to me, I'd cut a check for them ahead of time and not deal with a credit.
Yeah, we shouldn't be doing that.
well, and I think,
This is their deal.
right, but it's gonna be on county property, so that's,
Doesn't matter.
but the liability insurance. And it's for a county entity.
Already insured.
To Tom's point on that, I think if we had a check cut and waiting for it when it got delivered, there's no reason to fill out the credit app.
That's my opinion. I can talk to Joni about it.
That's right, exactly right.
We're gonna hire somebody to move this container. We're not buying a container to move people. It's just
Yeah.
them to haul it.
That's right.
From one place in the county to another one.
You
But
want
I'll
to give it
follow
back
up
to
if
the
you want me to.
admin.
You've been dealing with it. I would not be opposed to you going ahead and dealing with it. And I don't think we need to fill out the credit app.
I
Your
agree.
thoughts?
We had the same thing happen on another issue, just like this, and
Yeah, I just,
it's done.
I don't know that we need to deal with a 9-page document, paying $600 to have a storage container moved.
That's right.
So I would be good with you dealing with it. Bill, you good with him dealing
Yeah,
with
that's what I'm saying.
taking
Yeah,
care of that?
absolutely.
Okay. Anything else from you?
nope, that's it. Those are two things that came in while we were in this meeting.
She jumped in before you had a chance to respond if you had any additional business.
No, I already.
No, you were looking at me, making sure I didn't.
I was blankly staring at the back of her.
Oh,
Yeah.
Are
Sorry.
you gentlemen interested in me sharing the 4 job descriptions that I have of county managers?
Yeah, you get them to us.
Yes, if you could send them out to us. And
And Tom, if you wanted, because it was in this packet, you can actually just save them in, you can share them into this folder and they would have access to it. And it would be grouped in with this.
you have to find them
Discussion and
under
the
shared
meeting.
documents, so.
I'm going to get you all more comfortable with it.
Be careful, your elbow's gonna need some more Bengay.
Okay.
know.
Any other additional items of business
Oh, I have just a public comment whenever you get there.
under public comment? Hearing no additional items of business, public comment, if anyone wishes to make a comment at this time, please feel free to do so. I am looking at you.
You are looking at me. All right, since in this meeting, just wanted to let you know that the 18,000 that I talked about earlier did get approved. So we do have both. Every receipt for Justice Center that we've spent so far has been approved and we will be reimbursed this year. And the extension is being submitted by email on Friday to the commission that makes that decision on the extension and change of scope. So we are just moving right along and I'm excited about it.
Thank you for all your work on that.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other public comment? See no hands online. That being said, then I will recess this meeting. We will reconvene approximately 2 p.m. to go into executive section for legal advice. We are hereby recessed.
Good, because we need a break.
Thank you, Tom.